Welcome back, everybody. Automotive Inc. Today we're going to talk about 9 things I think GM could have done just a little bit better on their truck. Before we get started, if you don't mind, smash the subscribe button. Helps a small channel out. Thumbs up and notification bell. So as you guys know, I've been pretty enamored with this truck, other than the fact that the body shop really jacked this truck up, actually to the point where I really don't want it anymore. The truck's been actually really good up to this point towing. It's a very comfortable truck. And overall, I think the GM trucks have some of the best quality. Now, we haven't been in a Ram since 2024, and I was a big Ram fan probably for the 20 years before that. Had some GMs and Fords sprinkled in there, but a lot more Rams. And so we're going to get going here. Some of this is going to be nitpicks, of course, because some people say, dude, come on. But we have to stay objective here, which means we have to point out some of the things where the GM truck could make a perfect truck if they would spend a little bit more time in certain areas. So let's hop in the truck and let's talk about most of it, because most of it has to do with just overall quality. So as we get in here, guys, I've talked about this before. I put down these sill plate protectors. That's from me scratching the actual paint. Because I don't think paint's as good as it used to, because it can't put any of the good, bad stuff that made paint really good in it. But one thing I have dinged on before is GM plastics. Like in my Ford Super Duty, this still looked good after a year. And as you can see, a lot of this is from the body shop, them climbing in and out and standing on this plate. I mean, these plastics mar even with the actual floor mat bumping into it. Now, I did put a clear bar on this because this scratched within a day. You can see that big scratch right there. So I put some clear bar on it so that would seem to last a little bit longer. But even the other day, I was getting in my door and I kind of reached down here and I actually scratched this plastic right there with my fingernail. Now, I don't have daggers by any means, but it just seems like these are points that are, this plastic's going to be the same in the work truck as it is in the up trim one. And I got to say that if it mars that easy with somebody that's taking care of it, imagine how bad it could look in a very short time with this being used as heavy work. And I just think that's pretty sad. Now, the Ram plastics, I think, are a little bit better. They do scratch somewhat. And I think the Ford door plastics are more resilient. So take that for what it's worth. And as I said before, you can see these scratches. These were just from the body shop not being careful, taking this down and dropping it. And so that's the back side of either the metal clips or whatever. All of these plastics look like this on this truck at just a short time. So while we're in this vicinity too, I want to talk about other interior parts. All right, so this is where I'm going to bring you in here, guys. And I want to show you right here, this little part right here. It's going to be hard to see on the camera, but you can kind of see how the texture is worn down. It's almost flat right there on the seat, meaning that most of the seat is actually made out of vinyl. I think Ram is the one that uses the most leather, and I think it's this part in their seats. And GM mostly uses vinyl. Well, vinyl used to have a very resilient state to it. It could last a long time. I'm a big person that gets in and out. I do not slide out of my truck. It drives me nuts when people do it because it will break down the side bolsters of any seat over time. And this either happened at the body shop or whatever, but it's about 1 inch long, smooth part in the vinyl at 5,000 miles. And you pay for the leather, and it should be more resilient, even though there is vinyl. I didn't have any of this wear marks in my Ford or in my Ram after many years owning my last Ram, and in my Ford, I didn't have that either. So the only thing I can think of, because I have a very skinny bahookie, is it might be a seam on my pants. I wear these Wrangler shorts all the time. They're a real thin nylon material, so they're not even like cargo shorts. And I have a problem with that because if it looks this bad at 5,000 miles and 5.5, 6 months of ownership, what is it going to look like in the long term? So I do take a little bit of issue with that. The rest of the seat material looks pretty good, but it is already kind of taken a shine to it. And that's kind of odd because, like I said, neither did my Ram nor did my Ford. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is interior lighting. So this is an LTZ. I think it should have more ambient lighting than it does. It has a little bit of ambient lighting over there, but it is very dim. And then there is one ambient light here when you have no dome lamps on. And I'll be posting a video shortly of my fuel economy. And you're going to see I did that one early in the morning with the dome lights on, and you can hardly see me inside. there's just no ambient lighting. So if you drop something on the floor and your eyes have adjusted, good luck trying to find it, because there's nothing on the floor. There's no even entry dome lamps or anything like that. Floor lamps. And I think that with all the black, and maybe it'd be better with the Gideon or lighter colored interior, but either way, the interior lighting has to be better, whether it's better dispersed, better refraction, brighter bulbs, whatever. So when you turn them on, you can actually light it up. Now, again, when you're driving down the road and you don't want too much light, then that can play into effect. But I never found that the light really bothered me. Maybe it bothers others. Now, oddly enough, all of this stuff is going to be mostly inside, but there are a couple things outside that are kind of things that they need to do a little bit better. Now, the next thing is this is the LTZ with the Bose premium audio. I've never been a huge fan of Bose at all, but my dad is 11 and my 13 LTZ have better bass. Now, the 2025 Bose system is not bass rich, and really got to turn that equalizer all the way up and really amplify the audio to even come close to even some of the stock Ram systems and stock Ford systems. Now, when you step up to the Alpine 6 in the Ram, I think that is the best middle ground stereo out there without having to go to the Harman Kardon. You step up to the Harman Kardon, and I think it is the best. It's better than the B&O Unleashed, but it is a very good system. This Bose system is not very robust. It's not very bass rich. And it's not very acoustically like bouncing around like the Harman Kardon and the Alpine 6 does. And even though the B&O Unleashed, the sound just kind of moves around. It doesn't really do that with the Bose. So I think that the Bose Chevy, it's time to let her go and either that or tune your head unit so you can get more sound out of that equalizer. Now, what I want to talk about, guys, is GM's HVAC system. It's a beautiful laid out system, but I will tell you this is that when you have this thing on high and you're splitting it, say, between defroster face, and floor, whatever, it is not very powerful, but it is awfully loud. I think it is one of the, if not the loudest HVAC systems when you have it on medium to high. So it's freezing cold, you want to go warm it up real quick. That high, it actually whistles when it's on heat. And even if you turn it on feet and face, it whistles. And if you turn on just face, watch out, it is going to be super loud. Now, luckily the truck does turn the fan system down if you're on the phone or if you get an incoming phone call. But it's very interesting that it has to be that loud, and I feel like it should be moving, my hairs on my arm or something like that. Now, it can do that when you turn it down to vent because, of course, we're drawing in the fresh air from outside, whatever temperature that may be, and it does push it a little bit harder. But if you're just relying on the recirc or the actual vent with the heat or any type of temperature control, the HVAC is pretty loud. I think that they need to find a way to do that, especially get rid of the whistling. I've heard it in several GM trucks, so it's not just this truck issue. And maybe you'll never put it on high, but I just think that that's kind of odd. Again, if it's going to be whistling, then I would expect tornado-type vortex winds coming out of there. No, I'm just kidding. But I do expect more air. Now, another thing I want to talk about is GM is probably the least storing or interior storage of any of the big three. And they start with the door. With the door, you get only one pocket, which is fine. Maybe you guys don't have that much crap, but I actually do. So in the Ford, you get a bigger pan here. You get another pan and then an upper pan. And in the Ram, you get one, depending on your trim level. If you get the base work truck, you just have one lower door pocket. And then this. Now, I did do a block test where I took 1-inch cubes and I went in the Ford Loki before I got rid of it. And I'll eventually put that out. But what I can say is the Ford has by far the most. And by Chevy, by far the least, because what I did is took those 1-inch cubes and I jammed them in every place you could probably put one of those. If it didn't go in there at all, it did not get counted as usable space. So if we at the Chevy little cubby here, you can actually put a 1-inch square block in here, and it does, kind of a bump in here. And as it slides back, so if it got one in there, it got counted, did the center armrest, did the upper cubbies, the glove boxes, measured the under seat storage, not with the blocks, but added those all to it. And Ford was almost 3 times bigger by cubic inches for storage, and I like that because I have kids, I have a wife, and I like putting stuff in here. It's better to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. So I always like that. Now, RAM is second place. It does really well. It's got a monstrous bucket seat console that opens up, and but their little side things on the side of the console are so dinky. I mean, I don't even think it's a ½ inch thick, so it's hard to even put your hand in. That goes the same with underseat storage in the back seat. Ford wins hands down. Ram does give you the little cubbies in the floor in addition to underseat storage back there, so that is also nice. And both the Ford and the Ram also give you just a little bit more door panel storage back here. I think they're all fairly even on the cup holders, but Ford does give you that one little slider up front that gives you the ability to have either a big cubby or 2 extra cup holders. That's a fantastic idea because, again, wife, kids, water bottles, and everything, you're always going to run out of space. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, guys, is this center armrest. This has been a point of contention with me. You get in a Ford, it's flat. You get in a Ram, it's flat. And no matter how many times I try and adjust this, push it in or whatever, this thing will not sit flush. And I've been in some that's worse, some that it's just a smidge better, but is never flush. And if you're the middle person sitting here, you're not going to be enjoying your ride as much as the other two, because you would think that these little cubbies would make your back hurt. Well, actually, this is actually kind of nice. It actually feels like a little bit of lumbar here instead of the seat squishing in like the Ford. But if you're going to have a 6-seater, that bothers me a lot, and I'm not for sure why GM hasn't fixed it. All right, now that we're outside the truck, we're going to talk about the 3 misses that GM basically got. Ford has what's called approach perimeter lighting, and I love it. As you're walking out of the gym and it's pitch black parking lot at 3 in the morning when I go, within 10-15 feet, the truck lights up, and it lights up everything around it, basically, you know, showing you what's around the truck, but not only doing that but giving you a safe approach to it. Now, if you're remote starting your truck, both Ram and Chevy do offer, you know, the rear lights will be on, the front running lights will be on. And if you have the power running boards like this, of course, you do have the running boards with the light strip at the bottom. Now, once you unlock it, of course, all the other lights come on, the little puddle jumper lights come on the mirrors, and that is nice. However, the approach lighting, where it just senses your key walking up, I think that's a little bit of a miss. And again, GM, if you're willing to fix these things, I think you probably have the most well-rounded truck on the market. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is something that this may not bother a lot of people, and that is inside the engine compartment. Now, as we know, most manufacturers are going away from even oil dipsticks. Now, not necessarily the big 3, but GM did ditch the actual dipstick for the transmission. They don't want you no longer have a spin-off filter. That's a Allison thing. But because this transmission is mostly GM, if not all GM, with a little Allison naming or help designing it, you get no more dipstick. So there's no way to check it. Now, most people that don't know how to check your transmission fluid, of course, that's probably not even going to bother you. Like, who cares? I didn't even know they existed. I don't know. But that to me bothers me, especially when I drive truck. I like being able to check my transmission fluid. Now, we still do have a oil dipstick, but no longer do we have a transmission dipstick. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is a huge miss on GM's behalf. And this is, you already have some of the best cameras that you can on the market. And then you come back here and you have no actual camera connections on the inside of the box. So you got to consider that probably at least 50% of your towers are gooseneck fifth wheels haulers, and the rest might be conventional tow haulers. Well, if you're even going to put the camera connections on there, Ram and both Ford put them in the bed and on the bumper. So the Chevy, though, and the GM, they only give you a 4-pin and, of course, your 7. Now, you might be thinking, well, I use the 4-pin. Well, that's fine. I don't, and I don't think I have in probably 25 years. So, me personally, because you can buy a 7-pin adapter that goes to a flat 4, I would do that. GM, get rid of the 4 flat in the bed, put cameras on both. Or if you're not going to have the fifth wheel puck system from the factory, then maybe not. But if that's part of the package, then that camera setup needs to be also up in the bed for most of the towers. Have it on the tailgate too, because your only other thing is to go spend $1,200 on their kit or $1,800 getting it installed, and then drape a cord over your tailgate so it can rub on your paint all the way down the road, and then plug it into your bumper. So that's a huge miss on GM's behalf. Now, again, those are nitpick things, guys, but things that you need to think about when you're buying one of these trucks, especially how expensive they are, is what are really important things to you. Of course, speed, power, and all of that stuff, and towability is grossly important to almost everybody that's buying a pickup. But if you're used to having 3 or 4 kids and you need all that storage and you're going to be bumping your door panels and stuff like that, and you want this truck to look good for a long time, interior quality, interior storage, interior comfort for seats might be a huge thing. If you're going to be getting in and out of your seat 100 times a day, seat quality might be a big thing. And these are just some of the things that I want to point out to some people, because again, this is not the work truck grade truck. Kong was much better, but it was just a cloth-based truck, so it was made to take the beating. But the door sills looked like crap after, a very short time, about 20,000 miles. They started showing their wear getting in and out. But on the other hand, Loki at 10,000, you couldn't even tell people had gotten in and out of the doors. So those are some of my things that I think that GM missed on this. Otherwise, the truck has been really, really good. Love the diesel turbo sound. Drove a Power Stroke the other day, and it didn't even sound like a turbo spooling up. This Borg Warner turbo just sounds so good. But we'll save that for a different video, and who knows where this truck's going to go once we figure out what all is wrong with it. Not from them, not from GM, but from the body shop. As always, guys, I appreciate you guys being here. Catch you on the next one.